Well, hello there. Global politics today is less a ballet and more a chaotic mosh pit at a Limp Bizkit concert. Every headline makes you want to lie down with a damp cloth over your eyes. Just when you think it can't get crazier, someone says, "Hold my beer." It's a roller coaster on fire, and the safety inspector quit years ago. International relations feel like toddlers with nuclear codes. Even seasoned analysts reach for the strong stuff. The diplomatic landscape is littered with the craters of good intentions. Buckle up, buttercups, for another episode of Why Is Everything So Complicated? So, picture this. The EU, bless its bureaucratic heart, is probably having a relatively normal day. Then, bam! News lands like an anvil dropped from a very tall, very orange building. Former President and current headline generator-in-chief Donald Trump has mused quite loudly about slapping a whopping 50% tariff on all goods imported from the European Union. The initial reaction across the EU was, predictably, one of stunned disbelief, quickly followed by a chorus of, "Oh, for crying out loud, not this again." A 50% tariff isn't just a gentle nudge. It's a full-blown economic cannonball aimed squarely at the heart of transatlantic trade. Imagine your favorite French cheese suddenly costing more than a small car, or your German sedan requiring you to remortgage your house. The announcement, even as a proposal, sent shivers down the spines of economists, business leaders, and anyone who enjoys affordable camembert. The EU, meanwhile, started frantically searching for its how to deal with economically illiterate strongmen emergency protocol, which they've unfortunately had to use more often than they'd like in recent years. Now you might be asking, why, John? Why would anyone propose something that sounds so spectacularly disruptive? And that's a perfectly reasonable question. According to Mr. Trump and his supporters, the main villain in this particular drama is the dreaded trade deficit. The United States, you see, buys more stuff from the EU than the EU buys from the United States. In Trumpian economics, this is apparently akin to being swindled in a cosmic game of Monopoly. He sees it as Europe making a killing off America, and these tariffs are his way of, quote, evening the score. This proposed tariff is a classic play from the America First handbook. The idea, at least on paper, is to protect American industries, encourage domestic production, and bring jobs back to the U.S. It's a narrative that resonates with a certain segment of the population who feel left behind by globalization. However, most economists tend to look at these kinds of massive, across-the-board tariffs with the same enthusiasm they reserve for a surprise root canal. They argue that trade deficits aren't inherently bad and can often reflect a strong consumer economy, people buying lots of stuff because they can afford to. Your BMW and Bordeaux are sweating. A 50% tariff would hit specific sectors like a sledgehammer to a Fabergé egg. Think about the things the EU exports to the US: cars, pharmaceuticals, luxury goods, and gourmet food and drink. These industries are staring down the barrel of a very expensive gun. Let's start with the automotive sector. German engineering. BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, Audis, Volkswagens, Porsches. Now imagine adding 50% to their sticker price. That sleek new electric SUV might cost the same as a small apartment. This would be a massive blow to European car manufacturers and limit choices for American consumers. Brussels on red alert. Pass the emergency waffles. Over in Brussels, the de facto capital of the European Union, the reaction to Trump's 50% tariff proposal was probably less calm and collected and more sounding all the alarms at once. You can almost hear the frantic calls, the emergency meetings being convened, and the collective groan echoing through the halls of the Berlaymont building. EU leaders, who have dealt with Trump's trade unpredictability before, likely felt a grim sense of déjà vu mixed with a fresh wave of exasperation. Key figures in the EU, such as the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen and leaders of major member states like Germany's Olaf Scholz and France's Emmanuel Macron would have been quick to condemn the proposal. Expect a flurry of statements filled with words like unacceptable, counterproductive, damaging, and not in line with international trade rules. Naturally, the EU wouldn't just sit there and take it. The bloc has a well-established playbook for retaliation. History class, we've seen this movie and the ending sucks. Now, for those who think this is some brand new, never-before-seen episode of economic brinkmanship, I have some news for you. It's not. Humanity, in its infinite wisdom, has a long and storied history of shooting itself in the foot with trade wars. One of the most infamous examples, often trotted out by economists when they want to scare politicians straight, is the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 in the United States. Designed to protect American farmers and industries from foreign competition during the Great Depression, it raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods to record levels. And what happened? Well, other countries retaliated with their own tariffs. Global trade plummeted by about 66% between 1929 and 1934, and it arguably made the Great Depression even deeper and longer. Even in more recent memory, we've had previews of this kind of drama. During Trump's presidency, there were the steel and aluminum tariffs, which caused considerable friction with allies, including the EU. The ripple effect. Get ready for more expensive everything. The implications of a 50% US tariff on EU goods and the inevitable EU retaliation wouldn't be confined to just Washington, D.C. and Brussels. We live in a deeply interconnected world where supply chains crisscross continents and economic fortunes are intertwined. Throwing a grenade into one of the world's largest trading relationships is like throwing a rock into a pond. The ripples spread far and wide, upsetting everyone's little paper boats. It's not just about French wine and German cars. It's about the stability of the entire global trading system. Think about global supply chains, already battered and bruised from pandemics, wars, and various other disruptions. A massive new trade war between two of the world's largest economic blocs would be another body blow. Companies that rely on components or materials from either the US or the EU would face soaring costs and logistical nightmares. This could lead to production delays, shortages of goods, and even businesses going bust. Ultimately, the biggest losers in this scenario are almost always ordinary people, the consumers, the workers, the families just trying to make ends meet.